Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you might have about health and fitness and your goals. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important that even though you are exercising consistently on a regular basis, that you should still change your nutrition. Because I hear that all the time. Well, I just ate some extra stuff, but it's okay because I'm going to go do some extra cardio. If it were so easy, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about why that's important. And of course, you guys, if you have great questions, I need to know, because that is what we talk about every week. So let's get to it. There's a balance of everything that you need to be doing. And I'm a huge fan of devoting a little bit of energy and time into multiple avenues of your health goals. Because no matter what your goals are, there's going to be a little bit in each of these categories that you're going to need to deal with, right? You're going to have to probably do some cardio to some degree. Strength training is important for everyone. It doesn't matter the age. You don't have to want to get on stage or be a bodybuilder. Even if you're just trying to find balance, your core strength, which of course equates to balance. If you're getting older, that is super important because you've got to be able to stay independent, and you can't do that if you don't have some muscle strength there, right? Sleep obviously plays a huge role as well, because we need that reset. And we tend to eat more when we don't get enough sleep. So that can be a huge derogatory issue. And of course, mental and emotional health is a huge thing that I don't think a lot of people think of when they think of their health and fitness goals. But we all know that the physical part is usually the easy part. It's the mental and emotional that are a little more difficult. But of course, nutrition as well plays a huge role. And while we might have been able to get away with things in our 20s, that has a huge effect as we get a little bit older. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, when I first talk to people, I find it really interesting. And of course, as a newer trainer, like 10 years ago, I didn't really approach nutrition the way I do it now. Back then, I pretty much work with anybody because I was new and just figuring it out. And now if somebody asks to do just training and no nutrition, I will not work with them because it plays such a huge role no matter what your goal is. Now, it might vary according to what your goal is. We'll talk about that in a second. But, you can't tell me, okay, well, I really want to do this, but I'm not willing to talk about nutrition because that's pretty much, they say, 80% is diet, the other 20% is exercise. I kind of disagree with that. It really depends on the person, depends on genetics, depends on epigenetics. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more variables. But the one thing that I originally tell people is that nutrition determines size, exercise determines shape. So take a second and think about that. Technically, if you get injured, you might not be able to exercise for a while, but you can control what you put in your face. And so, if you're eating more than you're burning, you're going to have an issue. And conversely, if you are trying to grow, you're trying to put on some muscle, but yet you're not providing your body with a surplus of calories, especially good calories. It can't just be junk, guys. You're going to struggle to put on muscle because it has nothing to draw from. Now, there is something to be said about body recomposition, but that's not tonight's topic. But, you have to make sure you support what you're doing with your nutrition. So, if you think about that, if you're really trying to get lean, you're going to have to focus on nutrition. Now, that doesn't mean eat less. I'm so tired of hearing eat less, move more. There's just way more to it than that. It's not about how much you're eating as much as what you're eating, right? Trust me, if you're eating clean, and it's really difficult to overeat because your body actually produces these hormones that say, hey, I'm satiated and full. And so it's really difficult to eat if you're eating all of the macros and the nutrients that you're supposed to, because although food can be a lot of things, right? It can be tradition, it can be social, but really what food is it's fuel, it's energy that our body takes in and it breaks down and it uses so that you can function and move, right? And you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. I'm sure you've heard this. Just like you can't out-supplement a bad diet, you cannot out-exercise that. And if you really think about it, some people, I just remember I had a coach once that I said, can I just have a couple of M&Ms? He goes, yep. For every M&M you have to do 10 minutes of cardio. And I went, yeah, not worth it. But if you sit down and kind of figure it out, and of course, it's not just calories in, calories out. You just can't rely on that, guys. The more that I hear that, I know Coca-Cola is still trying to do that. All calories count. They do. Some just count more than others. there's way more to it. So if you kind of look at what you're eating, I mean, it takes a lot more exercise to burn that food off than you think it does, and it's not always worth it. Now, sometimes it is. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it is, but there's just so much more to it. So if you're looking at your nutrition and you're really balancing by approaching nutrition along with your exercise and those other things we just talked about, you're gonna have way faster, better results than if you just rely on exercise to get you where you're trying to go. So while genetics do count to an extent, there's those of us, I already know my family history. I know that type 2 diabetes runs in my family, heart disease runs in my family. So I'm very aware that and it's honestly one of the reasons why I chose to get on the healthy train, right? And to make my health a priority, because I just don't want to go through that. It's kind of like, they describe it like light switches, that even though your genetics might determine that you might be prone to diabetes or prone to certain diseases, if you live a lifestyle that does not flick that light switch on, more than likely you'll be able to avoid some of those issues. And that's really important. And that can be done with a big portion of it with nutrition. So keep that in mind. The other thing is you have to support your exercise. So it's different depending on what kind of exercise that you're doing. If you are running, you need to eat differently than somebody who is trying to put on muscle, who needs to lift differently than someone who's trying to put up a PR on a weekly basis or on a regular basis, because each of those goals are so different. The macronutrients are going to be different. Now, if you talk to me, I'm going to probably back you up and say it doesn't matter what your goal is, you need to eat cleaner, healthier, stop eating a lot of highly processed, ultra-processed food, because it's going to be a problem at some point. Now, I hear a lot of times people say, well, I could get away with it in my 20s. Like, well, on the outside you did, but now you're in your 40s and what you did in your 20s is now showing on the outside. So just because you got away with it when you were younger, or you think you did, it actually can have a serious downside as you get older. So if you think about things like, they're now finding out that sugar actually ages you from the inside out. Now, I like sweets. I have a huge sweet tooth, but I don't eat a lot of sugar on a regular basis for multiple reasons. But somebody who eats a lot of sugar and a lot of ultra processed food, that's going to come back to bite you, not only with maybe some of those diseases that we're seeing more and more of more often, and the obesity epidemic that we're having, but it can actually age your body faster. And most of us don't necessarily want that. So really we can actually help avoid that by being a little more just more conscious about what we're putting in our bodies and what it's doing for us. Because just like the fact that it can speed up the aging process, we can actually slow it down by the nutrition that we actually put in our bodies. You just have to know what you're doing and why, right? Keep that in mind. So the things that nutrition affects. Okay, so let's talk about that. I find it fascinating that people get sick every winter and then can't figure out why. I'm like, okay, well, your immune system is just not on the up and up. One of the interesting things is I haven't gotten sick for years. Now, let me just tell you, a few weeks ago, I had shingles. Yeah, 44 shingles. I've had the chicken pox, had to do some research on that. Well, I'm fully aware that if I put my body through too much and I don't give it a break, it will shut me down. And guess what it was doing? A lot of stress. On top of that, just multiple things happening in my life. And all of a sudden my body just went, you know what? Let's put you down for a few days. Now, fortunately, I was healthy enough that I got over it super fast, but if your immune system isn't up to date, or honestly, if you've had a lot of situations where you've taken a lot of antibiotics, all of that plays a huge role. You need to make sure that your gut health is up, on the up and up. Your immune system is strong, and if you're eating a bunch of junk, that's actually going to affect that. It affects your ability to heal. If you have had an injury, had a good client of mine that had a pretty intense accident not too long ago, and he wanted to know what can he do while he was down and not able to exercise. And I'm like, heal. This is what you need to do. You need to eat. And you gave him some options of things that can really help us heal so that he could heal faster. He's back in the gym, which is super great. But, if you don't give your body what it needs, it's going to take you longer to heal, because your body needs the nutrients, not just the calories. Same thing with energy. If you are low energy, maybe it's because you're not supplying your body what it needs. yeah, calories supply energy, but it doesn't always make you run optimal. That's my choice. Is I want to be optimal. I want to feel good. I want to be able to do it. Have the energy to do all the things I want to do, not to be down and yeah. People call me driven, and I'm very aware that is true. Like I said, we talked about aging. You know, it can either speed up the aging process or it can slow it down depending on what you're accomplishing. They've actually shown research that eating vegetable oil, like all of the is the polyunsaturated fat, canola oil, some of those garbage oils plus sugar can actually change your DNA. That is kind of scary. So not only may it affect you, but you could be passing it on to your offspring, and that's definitely a scary thought. And again, gut health. We're finding out more and more how important our gut health is and what a huge role it plays in our system and our health. And if you're not feeding the good bacteria what it needs, all sorts of issues can happen. So nutrition plays a role in all of that. So you might be the best exerciser, the most dedicated, but if you're not giving your body what it needs to function, you're not going to be at your best. So we talked a little bit about, what you do. You might be 20. Like I said, you might think that you can get away with it. However, again, the things that you're creating now, you might not see on the outside until you're a little bit later, and you can't get rid of that stubborn belly fat that's come on, or, you just struggle with energy, or there's a lot of things that can happen. Some diseases take years and years to manifest itself. So why not take care of it while you're young and then create the best life you possibly can? That's important as well. Plus, again, sometimes you don't see that fat gain in your younger years, but I find it fascinating. I get people that come to me in their 40s and they think, hey, it should take me 4 months to take all this garbage off that it's on my midsection. I'm going, well, it took you 4 decades to put it on. It's not going to take 4 weeks to take it back off. It's going to take it, but you have to undo all that damage that you've done. So tips, both diet and exercise are important, plus the things we talked about in the beginning: sleep, mental and emotional health. And again, that's a topic for another time, but if you need something more than you can find right where you are, that you can answer yourself, don't be afraid to get some professional help. Counseling is a thing that is, a lot of people realize that it's so important these days. I'm not gonna lie, I've been to a counselor myself. Some days I just need more coping skills, or to talk through something, and I think that's super important. So keep in mind that all of those things are important. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. You might be able to get away with a little bit more because you're exercising, but don't count on it. Now that I can definitely here and there eat some things that I want to eat, not on a regular basis because I already know what my body does, but because I have so much more muscle, I'm not affected the same way. My insulin doesn't spike the same way as it did when I was 210 pounds. Back then I needed to heal my body with food. Now I'm just trying to keep myself optimal. Really, that's what the goal is. So while calories matter, quality actually matters more. You can't just eat junk. I know we now call that, the American diet. The standard American diet is ultra processed. We eat out a ton. Nobody knows how to cook anymore. There's a lot to that. So if you are just starting at basics, there are some things you can do. You can actually go back through all of my videos. If you can't find them on Facebook, I have a YouTube channel. Everything that I've ever done Facebook Live-wise is posted there. You can go back and see all the things I've talked about with that. About the quality of what you're eating as well. And don't forget that no matter what exercise you're doing, there has to be a balance in that. I get a lot of people that do a ton of cardio but no strength training and then can't figure out why their body's not changing. Because with cardio, your body adapts super quickly to it. If you're doing 90 minutes of cardio and no strength training, you might need to revisit what you're doing and figure out how to balance that with some strength training. Honestly, I'd rather do strength training than cardio. Just saying. So hopefully that helps you guys. You might get away with it for a little while, especially if you're young, but the damage that you're doing by just not worrying about your nutrition can be a problem. And I want you to be happy and healthy for a very, very long time. So have an incredible night, you guys. If you have any questions or if you have some thoughts about tonight, please leave a comment below. You can also message me directly at Facebook Messenger. I do respond. Just don't be creepy. Because I get my very best ideas from you guys. So have an incredible night. That is Q&A Wednesday. Good night now.